Desiree, we want to thank you so much for coming on the show to share your story with our viewers and our listeners. Could you briefly tell us what's going on in your life and your K-12 career right now?
What's going on in my life? I've been calling this chapter a rebirth.
Ooh,
Um,
Renaissance. Okay.
yes. I just recently moved back home to St. Louis. I am a school counselor. I've been a school counselor for the past 6 years. My first 5 years, I was a teacher's assistant at an elementary school. I couldn't pass my teacher certification, and maybe
Mhm.
we'll discuss that a little bit later.
Yeah.
And so during my 5 years as a TA, I'm like, I want more for myself. I want to do more. I can't pass the teacher certification right now. What is it I can still do in education? So I went back, worked on my master's degree, graduated. I was able to pass the counseling certification exam. And within 3 months of graduating, I got offered a position. And so I actually started in October. I didn't start in August at the beginning of the year, which was a blessing because a door opened and I was able to walk into that opportunity. And so I've been in school counseling since. A little
Okay.
bit about my background. I also have my ed specialist or educational specialist in mental health.
That is
So
amazing. Super proud of you. So, are you planning on getting your doctorate?
I am actually working on that now. So we are headed into year two. I'm attending SUSA, the University of Missouri St. Louis, and my doctoral degree will be in higher education, but it bridges the gap between secondary education and high school. And our focus is retention, student support services, and college access.
Wow.
My particular group, we're studying social emotional learning and mental health, and
Okay.
if students are retaining it as they transition through each grade level. So from elementary to middle to high school, and then when they get to college, do they know what social emotional learning looks like at the college level?
Wow. So, you see yourself at some point transitioning to the college level?
I don't know quite yet. Possibly to be a professor.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be a professor. I love to teach. I love to provide the knowledge and the skills I have, the tools and strategies I use to help me throughout my career. I would love to teach a course like that to help students prepare as they move through their collegiate career.
That's awesome. So it's obvious that you're a very, very ambitious young lady. Like, where did this ambition come from, Desiree?
From parents who didn't give me a choice.
Oh,
So
wow. That's
no,
fair.
but my mom is very hardworking. She's actually a payroll director, and so all of her education is in business and accounting. And then my dad, he actually only had a high school education, so education became very important in my household, and it was always a push to keep going no matter what the barriers are, the obstacles, find a way to jump over them, go around them, but keep going. And so over the years, I just dove head first into it and kept going.
That's awesome. So you're a high school counselor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you like most about being a high school counselor, and what do you like least about being a high school counselor?
What I like most about being a high school counselor is starting with those freshmen and seeing them their senior year, their growth, their maturity. It lets me know, it gives me excitement that I'm in the right place. I'm in the right career field. The thing I hate least is the push for them to score high on the EOCs or the ACT. So all of the testing is one of the things that I dislike the most, especially with the demographic of students I work with, because typically our African American students aren't prepared to necessarily perform high on those type of standardized tests. So I dislike those the most, and that's the part I dislike about counseling the most, because you'll get the phone call like, "How did so and so score on the ACT?" Or their mom or their father or their guardians, because most of them do have guardians, will call, and it's like, "Well, I would recommend they retake the ACT again so they can score a little bit higher." So that part is one of the most challenging, and having to deal with students who have mental illnesses or suicidal ideation.
Wow. Yeah,
It's
that's really
very challenging, and especially when they're hospitalized or things of that nature, and then they have to come back into the school because it's like their peers have all of these questions, teachers and other staff have a lot of questions, and we still have to hold confidentiality. So we can only provide so much information without breaching confidentiality. So those are some of the things I least like
No, I get it.
about
It's a
being
real
a high school
tightrope for you as a counselor because you want to provide the support that they need. But you also talked about the testing piece and even your own struggles with passing standardized tests. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
So I'm going to be very transparent. I just passed my teacher certification last May.
Wow.
And most people would say,
Congratulations.
"Well, thank you." They would say, "You know, you have degrees, you have other certifications at this point. Why is this such a big piece?" Well, it goes back to my parents. They are believers in you work hard and you keep working until you accomplish what you initially set out to do. So I took the test about 6 times.
Wow.
And it was a point in time where I was just like, well, forget it. I'm in a career. I'm a counselor. I make decent money. I'm okay. And it's like, I can hear my parents' voice back in my head saying, no, keep going, try again.
Sure.
And I finally passed it.
That is so good. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so grateful to you for being transparent and even vulnerable to a certain extent to kind of share that with our viewers because I know there's someone out there that is watching us right now, Desiree, that has gotten inspiration from you saying, "Hey, I didn't give up, I didn't cave in, I didn't quit, and it was important to me to do this, and I did it." And I see the joy in your face in that accomplishment. So kudos to you, and you should be commended for your persistence. Thank you for sharing that story. So how do we ensure that we instill that kind of grit into our students, the same grit that Desiree has? You know, a lot of students, to your point, students of color in particular, really struggle with standardized tests. How do we instill that grit in them that they can do it and that they never should give up on their dreams just because of a test?
So one of the many things I do, is kind of radical. And I probably walk a fine line of getting in trouble sometimes, but I call them to the carpet. So when they come to me, one, do you have a pass to be out of class? Like I love you being down here talking, but you have to check and you have to communicate with your teachers and just I go in and I constantly check grades.
Mm,
So if I see you had an A or even a B and all of a sudden you have an F, I'm going to reach out to you. And if you can't provide me with answers, I will let them know. I'm going to make a call home as well. And
mm,
then all of a sudden it gets the ball rolling again and they're doing their work. And then it's sometimes where they still won't. And then I
okay,
do make that call home and find out if some things going on at home. Or they'll be transparent and open up. But the most important thing is them knowing someone is in their corner and
sure.
someone is checking on them and someone cares about them and cares about their education. It's like it lights a spark within them that someone cares. I also have my seniors, typically I just ask them to volunteer. So sometimes I get a lot, sometimes I don't. But I
Sure.
have them write a letter critiquing me, telling me what
Okay.
I could have did better as a
Okay.
counselor, what I could do for the rising juniors who will be seniors next year. And I had a letter from one student who he's actually an entrepreneur, excuse me, and he will be graduating from college in this coming May.
Mhm.
He just talked about how I constantly rolled him, and he was like, "I hated it. I knew my grades were trash." Their
Mhm.
terms, not mine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I knew my grades were trash, but almost every day you were checking on me, you were reminding me. And then came January, I knew that if I didn't get it together, I wouldn't graduate high school. And you sat with me and you helped me create a game plan. And you reminded me throughout to stick to it. Come May, I'm able to graduate, walk the stage with no worries. I'm a high school graduate,
Wow.
but it didn't stop there. Now I want to try this college thing. And
Okay.
periodically, this particular student would email me about financial aid or different things related to classes. And the fact that he stuck with it and he's graduating. So I'm like, all of my harping and all of my pulling coattails and all of my reminders, it worked out. It worked out. It makes me excited to know that, okay, I'm not doing it in vain, or I'm not talking just to hear myself talk. That as much as I pour in, it may sit there, but then it starts to trickle out and trickle through, and they get it.
Yes, those are priceless moments, right? Like we can't
Yes.
put a dollar sign on that. I know that personally, that's why I got into K-12 education, to have those kind of moments with, students, current students, former students. I've been doing this for a long time, so I've had those kind of moments where, you know, high school graduates have come back to me and talked about how I poured into their lives. So, yeah, those you're gonna get many more of those. I can tell you that for sure, Desiree.
I look forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, Desiree, the worldwide pandemic has negatively impacted many staff and students in the USA and the world. How has the pandemic impacted you, your family, and your K-12 career?
So during the pandemic, I actually got married.
Okay.
But I was prior to that, I was promoted, and I was actually the alternative school counseling learning at Hazelwood, and it was a new program, and all of the students completed all work virtually outside of COVID. So whether COVID had happened or not happened, these students would do all of their learning on a virtual learning platform.
Sure.
There was a big shift because I realized I was no longer doing school counseling. I was doing more coaching and tracking, a lot more data related stuff. And I didn't like it. I realized that school counseling is my niche in education. That's where I belong. So switching careers in the middle of COVID was a little hectic because not only am I learning and I'm sitting under superintendents that are helping me with this, but then they're also planning and prepping for the students who won't be coming back into the building, and they're figuring out that type of virtual learning. So it was a lot going on. It was like a whirlwind, but we made it through.
Absolutely.
Um, it also during COVID, it allowed me to connect a lot more with families
Okay.
because once again, Miss Williams style fashion, I would go knock on doors sometimes, like, "Hey,
Nothing wrong
what's
with that.
going on? Do you need like what is it we can do, the school can provide, or what is it I can provide so that they stay on track?" So it was interesting. And then towards the end of the year, I moved in the
Mm,
midst of COVID, moved
okay.
and was applying to different school districts in a totally different state,
Mm,
transferring my certifications over. So I had a lot going on during COVID. And one of the good things that came out of it, as I stated earlier, was building closer relationships with the community and the families. One thing I did not like about it was a lot of learning loss occurred.
yeah.
So it's like we're still playing catch up from that. And then at the middle high school level, it was a lot of lack of communication at that point. They didn't know how to interact with their peers because they were separated from them for so long. So as a counselor, I feel like I was also reteaching them a lot of behaviors that I wouldn't have previously had to teach or talk about with them. So
Yeah, that's fair. You're right. So you didn't have any issues with like sickness or anything as it relates to COVID?
no, thank God. Like I literally moved to the East Coast, and then from the East Coast to the South, I didn't have COVID. My son didn't. My husband didn't. It truly was a blessing that I did not. But people all around me were getting COVID.
Yeah, so you were blessed in that regard. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm so grateful that, yeah, we definitely had that issue happen. My son got COVID first, and then the next thing you know, we all had COVID. I have a daughter and I'm married as well. So, yeah, we were fortunate because we got COVID pretty late in the game. So by that time, there were actually, vaccinations that were out there. So we were very blessed to have already had the vaccination. And yeah, we had some sickness, but it wasn't anything that was life threatening. So I'm happy that you and your son and your husband didn't have to deal with that. It was a mess. So wow. So you know what, Desiree? Sometimes our K-12 profession gets a bad rap. Why do you believe that K-12 education is such a noble profession?
Because we're shaping the future of many. And when I say many, when you think of all other professions, they got there by first coming through some form of education, right? So
Sure.
I think that's the beauty of it. And I have to remind myself sometimes, as well as some of my close friends, because the majority of my friends are in education with me as well, that if we don't know our why,
Okay.
then it's easy to be overcome with burnout. It's easy to say, look, I'm throwing in the towel, I'm doing a career change because we lost sight of our why. But
Mm,
if you keep that why in front of you, you'll love being in education. You'll love being where you are. But the very moment you lose sight of your why, it makes it difficult
that is so true.
because why do we get paid less? Why do we get, you know, they compensate us with the you get your summer breaks, but we're the lowest paid career. Why is that? And we put in the most work. We put in time that we're not getting paid for with lesson planning. But you have to remember your positive why. Why did I spend my time in undergrad majoring in education? Why did I pick this district to work for? Why do I like being around these students?
Mm,
So
that's fair. So it's 2022. Let's say I don't see Desirae for 5 years, 2027. Where are you at in your K-12 career?
I'll probably still be working because I definitely won't be old enough to retire. My ultimate goal is to bridge into a position or possibly go to a district and present to the board, the superintendent, life coaching for teachers.
Okay,
And it goes back to my previous comment of the why. If we keep our positive why in front of us, what I learned not only because of COVID and the pandemic and everything, even prior to that, a lot of educators were facing burnout a lot faster.
sure.
And so it became difficult because they didn't know how to balance home life and work life.
Mm,
School is out for high school, you're typically out by 2:15, 2:30, but they found themselves staying in the building 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30. And now that's bridging into their home life and their personal time. And in my beautiful, polished, painted world of education, I feel as though if we can't provide counseling within the school building just for staff,
sure.
maybe life coaching because it will be financially easier and more feasible. But having someone that they can sit down and talk to. And I tell everybody about this idea, and I always get asked, well, what is instructional coaches for or curriculum coaches? And I'm in my mind processing, and I'm like, well, curriculum helps the teacher learn how to teach what needs
Sure.
to be taught. But a life coach will work with them on understanding how to plan out their work life and then have their home life, their personal life, their free time, and how to balance those two. And
That's
that is not something we're too often taught, whether you're in undergrad or graduate school. They have us create these self care plans, but they don't tell us how to implement them. And so, like I said, that would be my dream job to be able to go into schools and specifically coach first, second year teachers and first, second year counselors on how to manage both and possibly principals because transitioning from the classroom to administrator
that's
position
tough.
is a big leap as well. So being
Sure.
able to help them understand the importance of work life, home life, and the balance.
Love it. Desiree, if you had to do it all over again, would you still have made the decision to work as a K-12 educator?
I would have because I knew when I was 17, my junior year in high school, when my honor Spanish teacher asked each one of us what would we what was our plans and what was our career goals for after high school. And I stood up and said, I'm gonna be a teacher. And all
Wow.
my peers looked at me and said, there's careers where you can make way more money. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to be a teacher. And I believe that was around September or October. By the end of my senior year, that May, my Spanish teacher presented me with Harry Wong's First Days of School. And she gave it to me and she was like, this is your graduation gift. If you're serious about being a teacher or being in education, read this book. It will help you. It will help save your life as a teacher.
That's
And
awesome.
so if I had to do it all over again, even with the hard days, I would still choose to be an educator.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I want to acknowledge you, Desirae, and honor you for all the good work that you're doing as a counselor on behalf of the students in your community. I created this platform to showcase and celebrate K-12 educators just like yourself. So I want to honor you in that regard. Thank
Thank
you so much.
you. Thank you. It's always good to be honored and recognized.
100%. And Desirae, I want to thank you for coming on the My K12 Career Show today. But before you leave, would you please give our viewers some parting words of wisdom? Tell us how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely.
Some parting words of wisdom: create a plan, stick to your plan, no matter how difficult life becomes.
Sure.
Right now, the only social media that you can reach me on is Instagram. Is reach1.academic coaching, and of course on LinkedIn, Desirae Williams.
Yeah. All right, Desirae Williams. I only have one request of you before we leave.
Yes,
When you become Dr. Desirae Williams, will you come back on the show?
I will. I will.
Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate you, and we thank you so much for coming and sharing your story and just being so honest and transparent. And I can definitely see greatness within you, and I know that the best is yet to come for Dr. Desirae Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.